more thing.
Come B2B with me.
Yo, what's going on? It's Come B2B with me, NoDave. And this guy, I'm going to say this is probably one of the most special ones yet. This is Chiz. And everything about this is mad. It's like quite early on a Sunday morning and we're about to do a neuro B2B. But this goes really, really deep, doesn't it?
This goes so deep. Like, this guy is the reason I'm here, the reason that I'm in the scene. I love you, mate. I can't wait to do this.
Well, you were already in the scene before, because literally like 4 years ago we met on a stream, and you already, I thought you were already part of the industry because of the professionality and everything, and that's when we met, and then you applied for the mentorship. Those 2 years of mentorship have been absolutely amazing. One More Thing wouldn't be where it is, and I wouldn't be where I am over the last 2 years with everything I've managed to achieve without you, without your help and your input. Like, you've kept me going and you've really inspired me as well, so it's definitely a two-way street, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Everything like this last 2 years has just been, it's been magic. It's been chaotic. Like, I never thought that I would ever be doing anything like this. Like, we met at Mental Health Still Matters. That was an amazing time. And then, yeah, man, like, not to go too deep, but I was at a crossroads in my life, and I saw you were wanting to expand the team, and yeah, I shot my shot, and like, here I am today. And the sort of domino effect that it's had, like, you got me into like mixing and getting on the decks and stuff like that, and it's just mad, mate. It's fucking mad, isn't it? It's fucking mad.
It's amazing. It's been beautiful watching you develop. I still remember the call when you were asking my advice on whether you should join Brainrave, and now you're absolutely smashing that. You're taking Brainrave like in a couple of weeks' time. You're going to be taking it to Germany. You've got your first international gigs,
mate. Like, I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless. Like, you gave me some solid advice, and to just sort of get my head down and go for it. Brainrave is predominantly a neurofunk label, and I went to my first rave when I was 27 years old. I went to Hospitality in the Park, and the first two people I saw live were Ed Rush and Optical, and you know, it went hard, and I was hooked from the get-go. So to get an opportunity to obviously, you know, run a neurofunk label is mind-boggling, and it's just going from strength to strength, man. And yeah, we're going over to Germany 28th of June in Hanover for Neurophoria. That's going to be wicked. I can't wait to do it, man. And it's a headline show as well, mate. Like, it's just fucking crazy, mate. Like, I'm speechless, pinching myself. That's
absolutely beautiful. It's just amazing to see, and yeah, watch you kind of develop that and take the label on and make it your own. And I think, like, I've got stuff to learn from you, you know, like, we started off as a mentorship, but it's much more of a partnership, and like all good kind of collaborations and stuff, the inspiration goes both ways. But watching how you've kind of taken on the, you know, kind of so many creative aspects and operational aspects of Brainrave has been really inspiring, and I take tips from that in how we do kind of One More Thing and stuff. And this is a bit of a moment, because it was a mentorship, and when I started that, it was just to see where it would go. It wasn't a very formal kind of thing, but we have reached the kind of formal end. Like, your life now, you know, kind of from where you were 2 years ago has completely changed now. So this is a really emotional one. It's almost like it's not a finale. You will always be One More Thing fan, but you're moving on and moving up and stuff. And this is kind of, this is my way of just like, let's have a B2B to kind of to mark it, celebrate the 2 years that we've had. So yeah, this is ultra special. No other B2B has got so much of an emotional resonance for me. Like, this is heavy, and the music's going to be heavy as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's going to be so fucking heavy, mate. One More Thing is always going to be a part of me. I don't know if you can see that little tattoo. I got that. It was in Antwerp, wasn't it? Before Rampage Open Air. But yeah, like, mate, this last 2 years, you know where I was at 2 years ago. I was a drug addict. I was on my arse. I just moved back in with my family, and now I'm here, and I get to do this with you. And I get to put out, you know, music that I really love, to a wonderful, like, neurofunk community, and, you know, sort of like rubbing shoulders with fellow labels and stuff like that is really, really inspiring. I think there's like a healthy rivalry sort of between like the labels, and all the stuff that's coming out is absolutely mega. And Neurofunk is in, especially UK Neurofunk, is in the strongest position I think it's been in years. So let's fucking keep it going, man. Let's go, man.
I mean, I was chatting to Ollie Stonks about this yesterday at Gooders doing the United by Breakbeat, and I think like now the producers who are kind of coming through, like UK Neuro a couple of years ago was kind of finding this sound, it was breaking through, but it's quite like young and rough sounding, but now the producers are really finding their chops and there's some really, really interesting sounds. But for me, I mean, I know that a lot of people would associate me with Neuro because of my connections with Noiser and doing Vision Radio. Don't actually play that much of it. I do like it from time to time. It's not my favorite style of drum and bass because I find it a little bit too extreme. So my game plan here, I know you're going to go all out. My game plan here is to balance that kind of heaviness with a little bit of funk and a little bit of scattiness and stuff, and also just loads of tunes by Face. It's just like, who do I really, really love in Neuro? So Face are going to be playing loads of your tunes and quite a few noisery tunes. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve, but what's your game plan, man?
My game plan is just to go fucking balls to the wall, mate. I've been looking forward to this. I think our personalities are like really, really gonna come out in this mix. And yeah, let's see where the journey takes us. There'll be a few unreleased bits, a few Brainrave bits that are forthcoming, a few that have been released. Yeah, man. I'm just excited to crack on, man.
Go on, let's crack on. It's come B2B with me, NoDave, B2B Chiz. This is going to go hard. Go on, let's go.
Something bad down here.
No, my eyes get no rest, yeah. I'm adrenaline like crank, yeah. My heart's jumping beats together. My eyes get no rest, no, my eyes get no rest, no. Yes, I'm living under that energy. I'm stressed to the edge, yeah. My eyes get no rest, no. No, my eyes get no rest.
It has been a long journey of automation or deep sleep, but now the veil is no
For my soul.
Against the oppression.
you with no delaying, so what you saying, yo? Silly with my 9 milli with the dilly, yo. When I be on the mic, yes, I do my duty, yo. While up in the club like we while in the studio. I don't wanna ride with nigga really and truly, yo. My main thug nigga named Julio, he Julio. Type of nigga that'll slap you with the tulio. Bitch niggas get to death, act fruity, yo. Fuck that. Look at shorty, she a little cutie, yo. The way you shake it make me wanna get on in the booty, yo. Bitch, just hit the banging bitches in videos. While I'm with the freak like we up in the hit you with the shit, make you feel it all in your toes. Hot shit, got all you niggas in wet clothes. Down on my metaphors when I formulate my flows. If you don't know, you fucking with lyrical player trolls like that. Wanna party with me? Let me see just what you got for me. Put all your hands with my eyes to see. Straight buck wildin' in the place to be. If you really wanna party with me, let me see just what you got for me. Put all your hands with my eyes to see. Straight buck wildin' in the place to be. If you really wanna party with me, in God we trust. Yo, it's so much that you heard of us, yo, we murder us. A lot of niggas is wondering and they curious. I be in my niggas doing it so mysterious. Curious, all of my niggas is nigga, you walking around hearing us. Nigga, like you don't want niggas hearing us. Listen to how they do it, they playing us. Anytime I think shit will make you delirious. Imagine everything all up in your area. Flip mode, my nigga, you know we bout to bust. 7-figure money, there's no better cause there ain't no comparing us. Man and us, niggas is never even shit, my old nigga told me and I'm feeling niggas is straight that I know you be feeling so years. So reminisce on my nigga notorious. Wanna party with me? Let me see just what you got for me. Come on.
Killer bees kill people.
venomous, live and direct. Goose. Killer beat, killer beat, killer beat. Venomous, live and direct. Killer beat.
Hey, go on, Chiz. My word. Oh,
Fucking
wow.
hell.
That was wicked, wasn't it?
Mate, that was so cool. I'm dripping with sweat. The vibes were absolutely amazing. Mate, just thank you for having me, and I fucking love you, mate. Like, that was quality, and I want to do it again. We better do it again, man. I hope that's not the last.
Definitely.
NoDave back-to-back Chiz.
Neuro heads, if you're watching, Chiz and NoDave headlining your next festival. No, seriously, like I didn't know if I could hold my own there, because this is new. You eat, sleep, and breathe neuro. That's your passion, and I didn't know if I could match that passion in that way, or had the right tunes and stuff. There was a couple of things. Like, there was one particular mix. I think it was a Current Value tune that I played. I'm not too sure. Time signature was really crazy. It was experimental, but kind of towards the start. And when he mixed out of that, it's like, oh, Chiz is a bad man. Like, I wasn't intentionally trying to throw you under a bus, but I think a lot of DJs would have found that one really hard to get out of.
Mate, Current Value, a lot of his tunes are really hard to like mix in and out. By the way, he's releasing on Brainrave on the 4th of July. Thought I'd just pop that in there. Yeah, man, like, that's the beauty of a back-to-back, though. I think, obviously, few like little technical slips from my side. I tend to black out, mate, if I'm being brutally fucking honest, and I don't remember anything that happened. I remember like little bits and bobs. But yeah, few little glitches, but that's the beauty of it, and it makes it sound more robust, more industrial, more human, man.
Yeah, definitely in the moment, like, really. Yeah, exactly the same here. I think there was a couple of kind of key clashes, because there's Neuro have got these big pads and these big chords and dramatic instrumentation, and if you got the key wrong, and I don't really mix in key, I haven't got time for the admin or any shit like that, so I think there's probably a couple of key clashes from me. There was one particular one I wanted to show off to. It's like, if I'm going to do a Neuro set, then so the Busta Rhymes and the Dead Limit mix there was something that I prepared especially for you, basically.
That blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind. That was absolutely wicked. So yeah, mate, big pat on the back. Big pat on the back.
Big pat on the back for me, because I can remember you said you had a controller, but you weren't really mixing. It was early on in the mentorship, and you said you weren't really mixing in, and you wanted stuff to do with your time, and I was like, get mixing. And now to do that, and yeah, just literally stand there and just watch you mix, like, just an absolute pleasure. This is the whole thing. Like, literally, I'm sizzling in goosebumps.
Love it. Nah, mate, literally, like you said, like, I had that set up, and you're the whole reason, like, why I am in such a position in the scene. You saved my life, man. I know I've told you a few times now, but you fucking saved my life, mate. I finally found a purpose in my life. And yeah, this is a message to like anyone who's like maybe struggling, who, you know, has a passion there, but is maybe needing someone or, you know, something to unlock it. Just fucking go for it, man. Nobody is getting any younger. You only get like a few chances in life, man. Take them when you've got them.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, don't feel like all your chances have gone, like, when you hit a certain age as well, because like you said, your first rave was at 27. You know, like, all of this is kind of happening in your 30s, and I think a lot of people, I had these feelings of just like, oh man, you know, I've missed this opportunity before I'd even started, and in my early 20s, because you think that kind of time is that tight, but it's not. So yeah, just like, go for it, because if you have got the passion, you will find your path, as you have your neuro path. Like, so today it's not NoDave, it's NeuroDave.
NeuroDave. That's your new alias, mate. That's your new alias. Your neuro alias. Love it, man.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chiz. I love you too as well. It's amazing, and it blows my mind whenever you say those really kind words. I can't quite fathom it. It's not something that I ever foresaw from setting up One More Thing, but I didn't even know that I was going to come back as a DJ when I set up One More Thing. So to be able to enable other people to kind of, you know, like, empower their DJ journeys and their careers and stuff, and yeah, I wish you all the best in the future, man. Like, you'll always be One More Thing family. But yeah, this is a real fucking moment, like one of the biggest moments of this series so far, and probably one of the biggest moments of like One More Thing so far in that way, man. Like,
absolutely. You know, you just mentioned sort of like, it's you're never too old to sort of like get into stuff. I know you had a little bit of a hiatus, and you had somebody who you were quite close with who got you back into spinning, and now this is a bit of a full circle moment in regards to that, and you've literally literally done the same thing with me, and you're doing it with Tom. Annalise is mixing again as well. Like, it's absolutely amazing what you're doing, and mate, I just fucking love you, man. Just love you,
Wicked.
mate.
Work with one more thing and you will become a DJ.
Will.
Amazing. Right, if you want to do a B2B with me, I'm up for mixing with literally anybody. If I can get to you, if you've got the same passion and you take it as seriously as I do, then we can have a mix. Yo at one-more-thing.co.uk. I'm NoDave, NeuroDave, and this is Chiz. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Come B2B with me.
One more thing.